What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Howe, who is an author, master teacher and world-renowned expert on A Course in Miracles, a self-studied course for finding peace of mind through healing relationships. Now, Carol is widely known for her extraordinary ability to guide anyone to peace of mind with simple, humorous, and practical solutions. Carol Howe, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I love being here.
I'm pleased to have you on today. I always feel that, a guest that comes into my space is not just for me, but it's for the audience as well, but it is for me as well. I come to realise that sometimes the guests coming on, it's almost like the universe has sent them at this time of need right now.
I do understand that. I do. Yeah. Sometimes when I teach a class, I think, I'm really doing this for myself, and if anybody else wants to listen, that's fine.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works, and how you kind of come to understand that in the end. So, okay, so what is A Course in Miracles?
A Course in Miracles, I like to think of as either a transpersonal psychology, or you might say a spiritual psychology. It is not a religion. In a sense, it's a restatement of ancient wisdom, shall we say, about non-duality. In other words, trying to tell us that the world of time and space that we live in is not the ultimate reality, and it's not where, shall we say, happiness automatically resides until we begin to change our minds about a lot of things. So it's, you might also say, it's a guide. I think of it this way. Having a former computer background, I used to work for IBM as a systems engineer. So I think of it and often speak of it as a spiritual technology for rewiring your brain. Because we learn so many incorrect things automatically because of undeveloped brains and any number of other things when we were little, that we get into our adult years believing many, many things about ourselves and other people and our relationships that are false. They're not evil or criminal, but they're too small and they're inaccurate. And so this allows us to drive up a lot of those beliefs about ourselves that are hurting us and begin to trade them in for something that's more and more and more and more accurate. It's a process. It's a practice. It is a very profound spiritual practice, but it is not a religion. It's not something like, here's the dogma, here's what you have to believe to be part of the tribe, so to speak. What do you think about that?
All I'm thinking is that, okay, what's it in a nutshell? What is it then? What's the one-liner for it?
It's a it's a practice that allows me to move from a fear-driven life to a love-driven life.
Oh, well, that's okay. Yep, that I get. That's
Okay.
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, wow, you mentioned an IBM a system. Did you say a system analyst or
A
system
system
engineer?
a systems engineer. So I've done
Wow.
lots and lots and lots and lots of programming and debugging program. And human beings are very much like computers. So it's like there was a lot of transfer from one profession to another.
That's impressive. Your background's very impressive. Why do you think you did that?
Why did I do what? Stop. Well,
Well,
I
the
stopped going
IBM.
to from the time I was a very small girl, before I was even old enough to go to school. I've always had the sense, as so many people do, although they often don't talk about it, that something is missing. So I've been on a quest to find out how life actually works my entire life, which has been a long one by this time. So
Yes.
it's because it gradually went from an individual quest and trying to figure things out myself, gradually to a profession. I would never have guessed a long time ago that I would end up where I have, but of course that's true of all of us. We don't know where our life path is going to take us.
No, no, no. So would you say you started, it was a very mental pursuit of life, a very science-driven pursuit of life?
In the beginning,
Yeah.
because in the beginning, one is taught in our culture anyway that you understand your way to some sort of happiness, that thinking and understanding holds the key, and it doesn't. So it's like it can be a stepping stone to the place where you go beyond thinking to direct experience, which is very, very different. So the thinking is a tool that gets us up to a certain point beyond which the thinking mind not only is not necessary, it becomes an obstacle.
Mm.
So that's something that one doesn't just pick up, in 5 minutes. It's something you gradually learn.
Ha-
And
mm.
very impressive material. This is very impressive
Yeah.
material.
How has your family taken this sort of shift in what you're doing as well? Is it open with open arms?
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually stopped being in the computer business when it was time for me to have my boys, which I did. And when I was able to be at home more with more time, then I started pursuing how does life actually work? Are we in control of it or not? Is it fate driven? Do we have some hand in it? In other words, all of those questions. And I looked in so many places. There was much less available a long time
Oh
ago,
yeah.
and I had spent 20 years doing my searching before the course came along. And you know what? When it was delivered to my door, it used to be a 3-volume work, like a plain brown wrapper, so to speak. And I remember when it was delivered, holding that package before I even opened it, and I thought, if I learn what's in here, my search is over. And that was true. And that was 40 years ago.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I've spent the past 40 years. There are two of us still alive on the planet who are still actively teaching this in one form or the other, who knew the original scribes who brought it forward.
So tell us about the original scribes then, just very briefly.
Oh, the original scribes were amazing. They were professors at Columbia University. Um, Bill Thetford was head of all the medical psychology at Presbyterian Hospital, which is the teaching adjunct to Columbia University, a brilliant psychologist, very famous in his own right in the psychoanalytic world, so to speak. And Helen, who was older than he, worked for him. And after a series of some interesting experiences we don't have time to go into, she said, I keep thinking I'm hearing some sort of a voice. And that continued and continued until October of 1965, when after dinner, she very distinctly had this internal message. She'd been kind of practicing for a while that said, please take notes. this is a course in miracles. And she kind of freaks out, what she was prone to do. She was a very high-strung lady. And she called Bill and said, I hear this voice that says, please take notes. This is a Course in Miracles. What should I do? And Bill, who was a very practical guy, said, take notes.
Wow, wow.
And read them. Don't read them. Take notes. Bring them in tomorrow morning. We'll lock the door. We'll look at them together. If they're crazy, she was just such a perfectionist. It's like if the punctuation isn't right, we'll throw it away and no one will know. So the next morning they brought it in, she brought it in, and it was the introduction to the text, which is only about 12 or 14 lines long. And they were stunned because this was beautiful material. And they thought, we don't know what this is, but it is definitely not crazy.
Wow.
So that began years and years of scribing. And it spent about 3 years on the text, which has all the theoretical framework. Then there is a workbook of 365 lessons, obviously one for every day, that are to practice, not to think about, understand, and analyze, but to put the ideas into practice. This is why this is a rewiring program, because at the beginning of the workbook, it says, you don't have to like these ideas. You don't have to agree with them. You can mentally, actively resist them if you want to, but if you practice them as you were instructed, you will be doing a rewiring your brain process, and you will be changing over from, shall we say, fear to love, despite your objections. So anyway, it took about 3 years for the text, then a similar amount of time for the workbook. And then there's a third volume called the Manual for Teachers. And that doesn't mean people who are going to go out and teach it, because that was never the original plan. It's a self-study course. But it meant everyone teaches what they believe. In other words, you're a teacher whether you like it or not. It's not referring to a profession of a teacher, because we all demonstrate what we actually believe by the way we treat ourselves, other people, the way we choose to live our lives. So that's just got a lot of little extra material in it. And I'm always taken by remembering that 2 or 3 years into this, it's like we can now say, oh, we know what A Course in Miracles is. They didn't. They had no idea what they were doing. So about 2 years into this, they said, what is this? Are we going to just be taking this? Because she would get it every day, and then every day she would bring it in, and they would go over together, and he would type it up as she read from her shorthand notes. And they said, is this going to go on forever? And it said, no. You will know you've come to the end when you hear the word Amen. And I just almost cry when I think about this, about what it must have been like on that October day when they're getting their dictation, and the very last paragraph of the very last chapter of the book begins, and now we say Amen.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's almost like a goodbye to the connection they had, and it's almost then where is this work going to do? What is this impact of this work going to be as well to themselves and others?
They had no earthly idea. As far as they knew, they were just getting this for their own personal,
right,
so to speak.
Well,
and they thought, okay, we're done. And then about a few months later, she started getting the same kind of restless feeling, like something else is brewing. And then the workbook began. And then the same thing before the teacher's manual came along.
Okay. Did she ever question what it was and who it was that was coming through?
Yes. She was very split about this, because her rational mind believed one thing.
Of course.
And the material she's getting is very opposite to it.
Of course.
She never, ever was able to entirely reconcile that. And she used to say to people, do as I write, not as I say. In other words, it was kind of like, don't use me as a role model. But Bill, on the other hand, did choose to practice. And by the time he came to the end of his life, he really had reached that enlightened state, that place of indescribable joy where he literally could hardly keep his feet on the ground. Everybody know he was a very tall, slender man, and in the last part of his life, he was sometimes almost up on his tiptoes, like he couldn't even stay earthbound.
Well,
It was really amazing.
Okay, I really want just thank you so much for what you've said so far. This is really fascinating stuff, and I just want to just a few more questions, if that's okay, and we'll get into your book. I mean, it's all leading to your book. This is, but I mean, did they ever question what this was that was coming through? Did it have a name?
Yes, she referred to it as the voice.
The voice.
And
Yep.
the way it's written in the first person, it sounds like you could make a case that this is the person of Jesus speaking. Bill always referred to it as the source or the author because he thought there was a whole lot of confusion. Like, people could get confused. Are you talking about the historical Jesus or are you talking about Christ consciousness? Which is what it's actually talking about. But he always preferred to just simply refer to it as the author, capital A, author. It was absolutely an out of this world inspired material.
Right. Yeah.
Feel the inspiration come up through the words.
Yeah, and did they ever sort of, were they ever talking to it about other? Was there any other sort of questions they had about the reality of life and stuff like that? Did they ever get to talk about anything other than the Course in Miracles to the voice? Did they ever have their own questions about?
Yes. In the beginning, it was almost like the three of them, Bill and Helen and the voice, would almost have a conversation. Bill would say, ask it about this, or what about this? And in the final version now, a lot of that early conversation goes away. So it's kind of like at about the fourth chapter, they were instructed, take out everything, edit out everything that's either personal to you. There was commentary about Freud and Jung and other professors at Columbia and things like that. So take out anything that's personal to you or that identifies an era. Like if you would name somebody that 500 years from now, that name wouldn't mean anything, so to speak. So they were instructed to do that.
Wow.
By the time you get to about chapter 4, the tone changes from this, we're all sitting around in the room chatting, to the author is delivering a monologue.
Okay. So was it a form of channeling then?
Oh, absolutely. You can call it channeling. You can call it inspired.
It's just a word. It's just a word.
Whatever it is. Yes, it definitely, under no circumstances, came from their intellectual minds.
No.
They wouldn't have faintest idea how to make up something like this.
No, and so for someone with your background, when that material came to you, how did A Course in Miracles come to you then?
It came to me because it was published originally in June of 1976 in the 3 volumes. In the spring of 1977, there was a magazine that wrote the very first article about it.
Right.
And someone had sent us a subscription to that magazine as a gift, and the very first edition that we got had that article in it. And I read that introduction to the text, and I was just struck. I thought, this is for me. And
yeah.
And after that, nothing else compares to it for me in terms of authenticity, in terms of there's nothing contradictory throughout, in terms of the actual change in your life experience that it brings. In other words, it sits in a category by itself as far as I'm concerned. And there are many philosophers, Ken Wilber and other people, who are recognized as kind of the top of the food chain in terms of psychology, philosophy, and so on. Many of them consider this the most important work that's come at least in the past 2,000 years.
Hi guys, my name's Kevin Moore and I'm the host of The Moore Show. Now it's my purpose, my passion, my mission to help you guys become your greatest version. Now you might be looking to find answers on love, connecting with your life's purpose, reuniting with a loved one on the other side, discovering your past lives, or just helping you make sense in finding your direction. Now, as a multi-dimensional channel, I can connect with higher aspects of yourself to help you in this present moment to become your best version and live your most empowered life. Now you can book myself for a reading by going to tmspsychics.com/Kevin, or you can get a reading from one of my many gifted team of readers. The More Show Psychics, helping you transform your present moment to the most loving and happiest it can be. Now I also offer a full money back guarantee, so what have you got to lose? Empower your life today.
LandryAnka.net and The More Show bring you this opportunity to change your life. Are you ready to go after your dream life? It's possible. I know because I did it. I'm Landria, and I was an investment banker for 25 years, and I was stressed out. I wasn't living the life that I dreamed of. I knew that people like us could create automated income and freedom online, and all I had to do was get trained. You can do the same thing. The result for me, I created that life, and now I'm a professional award-winning author, and I have a movie out, and I do it for a living. You can do the same thing. You just have to be willing to learn. You can get free videos to find out about this. All you have to do is click on one of the buttons on this screen, and you can go to LandryAnka.net/KMS, and those free videos will come straight to your inbox, and you can learn more about creating the life that you desire. Don't wait another day to go after your dreams.
Absolutely, and that's a powerful statement that is. And I think, different channel work resonates with different people. It's almost, see, my understanding of it is this, and I'll be quick because this is your show really. But I think the way it works is, we all come from different soul levels, and different material which is resonant at the same soul level at which you're at or ready for is the one you're attracted to.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. This operates at a very high frequency. And not that others don't as well, but whatever
but
that
it is a high level, yeah.
Many people are just drawn, and they have, and they open it up and they go, I don't like all this religious sounding language, because it is written in, listen, this is important, it's written, much of it in Christian terminology. In other words, it uses things that if you've grown up in a Christian church someplace, especially more like the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Church, the Presbyterian Church, and so on, a lot of those words are familiar, but they don't have the same meanings. And someone asked Helen, and Helen asked the source. It's like, why was this written in the Christian language and not Buddhist or Hindu or psychology or something else? And the answer was because the message of Christianity is as misunderstood as any of the other major religions, so we might as well write it. It's not that its mission was to correct Christianity per se, but it's like, as long as it has to be written in some language, we will write it in this one. Was the answer that she got.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to just jump a little bit forward here. Then we're going to go back. There's a reason for that. Who was Bill Thetford? Have I got the name right as a dyslexic person? Probably not.
Yes, Bill Thetford was the man that I just mentioned. He was a very high-profile psychologist at Columbia University. He was head of all the medical psychology. He had several job descriptions, and he took them on when he was very young.
Okay, so who is still alive, if anybody, from the original Course in Miracles group?
The people who are still alive, Helen and Bill are gone long since. Bill died in 1988. Helen died in 1981. And Judy Scutch Whitson was a woman who was ultimately, it's too long a story to see how she was enfolded into the group, but she's a very dynamic go-getter woman, and she was responsible with her foundation, called the Foundation for Inner Peace, in getting the first 5,000 sets published. And then there was a fourth person named Ken Wapnick, who was very helpful to Helen and Bill. He entered the picture later on and kind of helped with editing and so on, and was, you might say, one of the first teachers. So Ken and Judy and Bill and Helen are considered, you might say, the four foundational people that brought the course forward. Helen, Bill, and Ken have all passed away. Judy is still running the Foundation for Inner Peace in San Francisco, California. She's 86 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Her former husband, Bob, is closer to 90. He is still running. They're both just as active as they could possibly be.
Amazing.
The course has now been translated into about 24, 25 languages over the past 28 years or so. Reaches effectively about 95% of the population on the planet.
Okay. So they're the only ones that knew the original group. Is it kind of a bit like Casey, the Casey material, where when you read the Casey language, it's in a language that's almost you've got to decode it. He wrote that stuff for you not to give it to you on a plate. He wrote it for you to take some part in it to decode it and come up with your own truth. I think.
Well, this is not this particular material would not be so much come up with your own truth. It would be changing your mind in a way. It's helping you see, as all other valid teachings of non-duality teach, which is the world is really an out-picturing of your state of mind. And of course, all the quantum physicists agree with this now. In other words, there is not just one objective reality. Everybody's internal subjective reality creates our experience. And the one difference about this, as compared to other teachings of non-duality, which have been around a good 5,000 years, at least in a codified form, is that this focuses on healing through relationships. Because who doesn't have some trouble with at least one person somewhere in the world? And of course, the teaching is that person is giving you valuable information about what you believe about yourself, what your worldview is. In other words, they're mirroring crucially important information if you understand the overall process, so that you can change your mind and be more loving, kinder to yourself, more accepting of yourself, because we learn a lot of very awful stuff when we're little. Just because of the way the programming happens when we're all very young. So that's why this is a reprogramming from thinking that we're not okay in some way. I've done dozens and dozens of years of counseling. I've spent time with thousands and thousands of people, and there's not a one of us on the planet who gets to be 6 or 7 years old without believing at some very fundamental level that we're flawed, or that we're undeserving, or that we're worthless, or that we don't measure up, or there's something the matter with us. In other words, we can put different language around it, but it's the common wound of humankind, so to speak. So this is recognizing we're all in the same boat. It just steadily helps us let go of those false ideas that got programmed in for many reasons when we were little. An unformed brain, stuff we've inherited in our DNA, that's now fairly new information, and gradually to keep upgrading our own thought processes about ourselves and others. And as we do, since the world is a mirror, your world will keep shifting and changing and becoming more helpful and kinder, and people are nicer, and the blocks are out of the way. In the introduction, it says, this course is not about teaching the meaning of love, because that's beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. It says, what we are is love. We can't ever not be that. Love is actually all there is as an experiential level, but it would be like I'm sitting here looking, I live in Florida, I have a beautiful Florida yard. It's like if I looked out and said, oh, I would give anything in the world if I had a beautiful yard. What am I going to do to somehow make a beautiful yard? But if I had the drapes drawn across the window, it would seem to me that I didn't have a beautiful yard. So to try to say I've got to go get a beautiful yard is the wrong quest. What I need to do is, what do I have to do to open up these drapes so that I can see that what I'm looking for is already present? So it's like everything everybody wants to experience is already present, is close to us as we breathe, but our fear keeps us from experiencing it. So this is like removing those blocks to the awareness of your inheritance.
But just appreciating everything you've got, that's a great place to start. That's a great place to start.
It's a marvelous, marvelous place to start.
Yeah.
Gratitude is so healing. And the idea that some things have come into your awareness where you think possibly a little bit less of yourself, it's like that's been going on for a long time, but something has triggered it and brought it up into your conscious awareness. Once it's in your conscious awareness, then you can do something about it. Because you see what happens when we believe when we're little that we're not okay, that we're not deserving, that we're unlovable, nobody likes us. We start building defenses. We build physical defenses. Little kids, muscles start to get tighter. The breathing becomes shallow because that cuts off both physical and emotional pain. And then a little bit older, we have our emotional defenses. This is what the ego is this whole series of defenses. And when you shut down to try to not be hurt anymore, you also shut down the avenues of your abundance. It's like shutting down is shutting down across the board, so to speak. So that's why this undoing the idea that you're worthless is undoing the need for defenses. It allows you to live in a more open way, and that allows your good to come into your awareness.
Well, that's one thing. I was losing my train of thought there a little bit. Yeah, thank you very much for what you just said there. One thing I've learned as well today, which you'd think that I would know this by now, but I've said it to myself before, but I'm so easily forget it sometimes, is that, and I forgot it right now. Oh no, right? It was just there. It was just there. Oh, what was it? I was going to say that I remember today, or remember just now with what you were saying, is, oh yes, doing what you enjoy to do. Doing what you enjoy doing, and not attaching a financial figure to that neither.
Absolutely. Doing it's like I always say, when I grow up, I want to be like my granddaughter. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter who is the most compassionate little person I've ever met, or big person. And this is not something she learned in school. Almost every day, she writes thank you notes to her parents. She's 6. She's still writing in a little first grade scrawl. And she says, "Dear Mommy and Daddy, thank you so much for all the things you do for me. And my heart is filled with love from all the love from your hearts. Love, Avery." In other words, this little tiny person has got gratitude, and the quality of her life is unbelievable. So we need to learn from these little kids. She can't wait to do something nice for you, not because she's trying to get something back. You can see that it's an outpouring. That's the natural inclination of all of us. And so those little practices, it doesn't matter what you're grateful for. Like you say, you just might be grateful that you've got a glass of water handy.
Right.
It's the process of being grateful, because that's the opposite of being defensive.
Yes, and
So
yes, yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, thank you for sharing the story of your granddaughter there. That's amazing. That's amazing. But it just goes to show that there is a new generation coming in with a bit more. Well, it's different, isn't it? They're spiritually open at a younger age, aren't they? The soul is. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. And I see that. I do. And we can all learn from that. Okay, so how many books have you done on the Course in Miracles? Is it just this one that you've done, or?
Well, I've written actually 3. One's a little guide, and then I wrote one about healing the hurt behind addictions, which I had never intended to write, but it's based on the principles of that's a story that we don't have time to get into. And then I wrote Bill Thetford's biography, Never Forget to Laugh, because his life was not only so remarkable, it's got the most comprehensive backstory about how the Course came in the first place. But this is not just here's Bill's life and here's what he had for breakfast. It's not just a recital, because so many people who have read it say, "Oh, I can so identify with this," because it's his struggles, his doubts. He didn't get a pass just because he was a co-scribe of this material. He had to put it into practice too. And in the beginning, because it says everything you believe, speaking of everyone, is 180 degrees off. Everything you believe is upside down and backwards. And he said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can change my mind about absolutely everything in the world there is to change your mind about. But he did. He persevered. And when he moved to California, his story is a fabulous guiding story for all the rest of us.
Yes.
In addition, he was a very healing presence. And when he moved to California after Helen, after the course was all done, it was published, he managed to keep her on past the required age 65 retirement age as it was at that time. And once everything was done, then he and Judy Scutch, Whitson, and Bob Scutch, they all moved to California, where he lived for the last 10 years of his life. And that's when I met him. He was a personal dear friend of mine.
Wow.
Which I write his story not only from my own personal experience, but I interviewed about 28 or 30 people who also were the people closest to him. So there's not another document like this on the planet about the early history of the course. But when he came out, and he was retired at that point and young, he was only 55 when he retired, because he was a lot younger than Helen. And people would say, Bill, now that you're retired, what are you going to do? And he said, practice forgiveness. Now, and people would not know what to do. For some people, that was a conversation stopper, like, where do you go with there? Sometimes would go like, what do you mean by that? Forgiveness doesn't mean what we learned in Sunday school, which is about pardoning, like saying, you really did hurt me, but somehow now I'm over it, and so I guess I'm okay. In other words, that's not what forgiveness is in this course. Forgiveness is letting go of the grievances that we hold in our minds about ourselves and others. So forgiveness is an internal process that has basically nothing to do with anybody else. The other people are simply mirroring to us what my internal work needs to be. So that's what he was very clear about. I have my work to do. I have my grievances to let go of. I have my healing with the last few people that I'm unhealed with to do. And he steadily, it was like water dripping on a rock. It just never gave up. That was the only thing that was really at the top of his list. And of course, he did other things. He was by nature, he was an introverted man. He was not a big public person, although he certainly did meet a lot of people in the process. But he was an interior person. And by the time he came to the end of his life, he had succeeded. He simply had let go of all of that that's not true and lived a glorious, joy-filled end of his life by everyone's account who was with him at that last part of his life.
Yeah.
So living testimony to the efficacy of this work, and that when you practice it, it delivers what it promises, which is amazing.
Yes, and I'll just say this, other people find it in different ways. We've talked about that earlier on, about, different soul levels attracted to different work, but this surely does deliver as well, for sure. And, I guess it's, has it bent your mind like a pretzel a little bit into the nature of reality?
Yes, you begin to look at things very differently. You begin slowly, because we're all very stubborn about this, but you begin to see other things not as causing what's happening in your life, but merely as giving you a signal as to what's going on within you. In other words, if we really could see that the world, and it's why I've talked to a lot of people during these times when there's a lot of political turmoil going on in the world.
Of course.
Not only that, but other people will say, this person makes me so mad. No one else makes us mad. What somebody else does is trigger an unhealed wound in us. The actual very, very, very short piece of information that connects our psychology and our physiology is, if somebody does something that causes me, it triggers a wound in myself that's unhealed, and that sense of lack of safety. Now, a lot of this is going on in your unconsciousness, so you don't know. All you know is that you're upset. But when we're upset, or when we are afraid about something or alarmed about something, it tells the brain, prepare to fight or flee. Because the ego mind has hijacked that same stress response system. So if we think somebody's being mean to us and I'm going to lose my job as a result, as far as the brain is concerned, it's like the saber-toothed tiger is about to jump in the window. It doesn't know the difference between a physical threat and an ego-based threat. All it knows is you've told it, prepare to run or fight. And so it dumps all those stress hormones in. It turns off the front part of the brain. You start operating out of the primal amygdala back part of the primitive part of the brain that we all use as young children. And it's that chemical cocktail that's called up by my fear that is taken into all of the cells of the body via receptor sites. That's what causes our emotional state, whether it's fear, whether it's anger. It's my own body chemistry. So that's the idea that somebody else makes me furious or someone else makes me afraid. No, because only your brain chemistry is causing your emotional state. They're triggering an unhealed wound, and that starts this cascade, so to speak.
Yes.
So we know that. Wow, does that make a difference? You begin to see people who you thought made you mad now, and you don't do this overnight. We're so used to blaming other people for everything, but you begin to realize what they've done is trigger something that I otherwise not be able to get my hands around. But once I'm aware of something, I can heal it. If it's unconscious, I can't do anything about it. But once I'm aware of something, now I can make a different choice.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's so important for people to know, and I find almost nobody knows it. How we create our own emotional state.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. We do create our reality in a sense, don't we? For sure.
Our emotional state, because you see how we think it's those politicians, it's my kids, it's the people next door, it's my teacher, it's my boss. They're all listen to the language we use. They're making me so upset. They aren't making us upset. We're making us upset. They're reminding us of how we're making ourselves upset. But you can see the kind of responsibility, not blame, but the kind of responsibility that allows us to take. So now we can take some corrective action.
Okay.
If somebody else is responsible for the way I feel, I'm just sunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've developed some great, well, your books, they've been coming up on the screen as well. Your latest book, just remind us what the title of your latest book is.
The latest book is called Never Forget to Laugh.
Never Forget to Laugh. Okay, that's the biography. Yes, of course.
Our latest actual project is our fabulous video series called See How Life Works, which is taking all of these major principles in A Course in Miracles. We've created 8 professionally produced feature-length films talking about, where this came from in the first place, how this ego sense of separate self gets developed, and then all the major ideas of forgiveness and relationships and guidance and choice and acceptance and so on. So it takes the major principles that if we can get this, our lives can be so much better, and presents them in a way. It's got teaching models, it's got animations, it's taught to a class. It's a fabulous way to wrap your head around, so to speak, what this is about, and we've just gotten fabulous feedback.
So if you're already studying A Course in Miracles, this will just add to it, basically.
This is for people who have never heard of A Course in Miracles and don't even think they want to people who have been at it for 25 years. In other words, it speaks at different levels to people in a very, very, very wide spectrum. Plus, and we didn't ever intend this, but it's what's happened. People say, something happens to me when I watch these. In other words, they don't know something is happening at an energetic level.
Yes.
Just by watching, not by trying to figure anything out or something like that, which was a surprise to us. I mean, we didn't do that on purpose. That seems to be some of the very happy fallout from this. It's just what happened.
So, and the website for that is?
Well, it's all on my website, which is carolhowe.com. CarolHowe.com. We have tons of free resources. I'm recording all 365 lessons. We've got
Wow.
I've got a free ebook that's called The Best Guide Ever to A Course in Miracles. It kind of puts all of this in about 35 pages so you can really digest the overall thing.
Actually, I've got to say your website is really, really good. Yeah, I've seen that book on there. It's a really beautiful website you've got. Very, very easy to navigate. Yeah, I did like that when I was like, oh, I like that. Yes. Wow. It's that what a lot of work you've put into this. Then how amazing is that? And you know, for those watching this as a TV show as well, the website is coming up on the screen as well. My gosh, yeah, well, you really are helping people because, you know, anyone can get into the Course in Miracles, can't they? It's not, I mean, it's not limited, is it? Do you know what I mean? By religion.
It's for everyone. And you know what? The reason I do this, which I adore doing, is that when I started out such a long time ago, just knowing something's missing in life, but having no idea where to start, I thought, this is like taking 50 years worth or more, my entire life work, and kind of like, I've done the research, you know, I've gone up those cul-de-sacs. I know what works, what doesn't work. And it's like here, kind of on a silver platter, you don't have to spend the next 30, 40, 50, 10, 47, however many years. It's like, here's how it actually works. Now, you can choose to practice it or not, but at least you don't have to wonder. And that's what motivates me. And I do spend my whole life now is devoted to all of the different ways, whether it's written material, whether it's video material, you know, whether it's podcasts. We've done all of the above. I've done 14 private counseling sessions with people that's called Finding Peace, where people can just listen in. All these people signed agreements that we don't ever identify who they are, but, you know, so that our private session can be made public so that they can just change a few little details and they'll be able to hear themselves. You know, it's about relationships. It's about health. It's about why life doesn't work out, things like that. But it's my mission. It's my great joy to make this as accessible and usable, as user-friendly as I possibly can. And I just keep learning and growing and inventing new stuff and so on myself.
No matter where you are in the world as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to tell you this funny thing. A friend of mine and I were in, of all places, Romania about a year and a half ago, going to a class much too long to tell you about. And so we're in the airport in Bucharest, and we're supposed to meet at a certain place, and a bus is going to take all the people who have flown in during that several-hour period up to a place in the Carpathian Mountains where this workshop is going to take place. And so my friend and I are walking. Bucharest airport is a great big, long, narrow thing. And I see this group of about 10 people, and I think, I bet they're kind of one of us. I bet they're a group waiting for this. So I start to approach them, and they're kind of standing around in a circle. So some are facing us and some have their backs to me. And so I start, and I said, I bet you all are waiting for the bus. Well, before I get any more out of my mouth, a woman who's back to me started to turn around, and she said, I know your voice. She said, I know your face. What's your name? And I told her, and she said, I'm watching your video series with my group in London. And I thought, how unlikely, you know, and yet how people on the same wavelength are going to find each other, even if it's in the airport in Bucharest, of all places. I'm from Florida. She's from the UK someplace.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So what an impact you have had by doing what you do as well, most definitely. Okay, well, we're almost at the end of the interview here as well. There'd have been so much more we could have talked about, but it's kind of limited to the hour. Do you know what I mean? And I really appreciate having you on. What would you say then is one of the most important messages of A Course in Miracle? You probably already said it, but just to go over that again.
I would say, despite everything you've learned about yourself, you remain forever conscious awareness that's lovable, that's loved, that's connected. Nothing has gone wrong. It's more like we've gone to sleep. We're hallucinating the things that frighten us and terrify us. So ours is an awakening process. But the key thing is nothing you have done has been able to change your own eternal and infinite and lovable and loving nature. That is the truth of everyone, despite the outer appearances. We have to learn to look past what our perception shows us, and to know that the ground of our being is always pure and whole and eternal and lovable. And that's a tall order given what we think of ourselves now. That's why there is a 180-degree switch. And if people can hang on to that, that's what the lessons are about, to hang on to the idea you are beloved now, not later when your behavior gets better. It's like you are beloved now, and it is your job to keep that in the forefront of your mind and to begin to act out of that in a defenseless way, in a way that's great gratitude, like you were talking about, in a way that reaches out to other people and acknowledges the lovability of them despite behavior. And it's a marvelous way to live, because it allows you to feel safe, grounded, help when your lessons come up that you need to learn, much better than the way most of us were brought up. Okay.
So I almost want to end it here, but I just wanted to say, out of curiosity as well, that with the Course in Miracles, with applying the daily teachings, when you're learning the Course in Miracles, you're not going to remember all those teachings that come through. I mean, there's so many, but it's more of a reprogramming in a different way, isn't it, than actually regurgitating.
It's not about learning material. It's not about understanding. And see, that's the mistake people make. They look at this big book and it's like, how am I ever going to learn all of this? You're not supposed to learn it. It's an erosion process. This is a reclamation process. It comes down and takes our hand and leads us up out of the whole process. Yes. I'll leave you with this idea. Basically, it says, in a more poetic way than this, joy and peace and understanding are a package deal. And if you're not joyful, and if you're not experiencing deep peace, presume you understand nothing. That allows us to be a little less arrogant about what we think we know, and to go, okay, I'm not joyful. I'm not experiencing deep peace. I now allow myself to be teachable, as a new word goes. So it's not about learning material. This is the great massiveness of this is not because there's a huge amount to learn. There's one thing to learn. You are forever lovable. You haven't left home. You see, you can say that in that many lines, but this is the eroding process. This is the practice process. This is a changing your mind process.
Okay. Absolutely.
And that's why your mind will become more and more and more clear. It's fogged up now with all of this misinformation. Your mind will become more clear. You will become more safe. You will become more at peace. You will become more appreciative of everything, and you will be a light to those around you.
Absolutely. Well, Carol Howe, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us your time today and coming in to talk about your work. It's really appreciated, and thank you for what you're doing in the world as well.
Well, you're most welcome, and it's always my huge pleasure to reach out and join with people about this material.
Well, we've come to an end on today's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on our past and upcoming guests by going to themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.
Courtney Amundsen, and I offer private channeled readings to help you to connect with your soul and your divine purpose. You see, it's so beautiful because what I'm offering is to help you to step into your empowerment and your inner teacher, your inner divinity. And this is such a beautiful experience because it's coming home to your true self. It's unveiling what already is you. And in this place, you can live in guidance, you can live in freedom, you can live in your authenticity. So if this calls to you, you can book a reading with me at morechoice.com/Courtney. So thank you so much, and I hope that you join me soon.